Assalamu alaikum. Choosing the right framework is not simple, it's quite complex. It depends of your background as well. I want to as well discuss why React is not always the best choice. We seem to take in consideration based on job openings, and that be the single predictive factor why we choose a framework, and as well like all the hype behind it. I personally started with Vue.js. I prefer it over React. I'm doing some React currently, and without doing Vue.js, it'd be a lot more complex. Because React, you have to know just really thoroughly to go through. Compared to Vue, currently I'm going through this book, JavaScript, the definite guide. It's relatively thick.
That's what she said.
And yeah, would highly recommend to learn JavaScript completely throughout. If you just want to get in front end without any JS knowledge whatsoever, would recommend Svelte. It's a relatively new framework that emphasizes small bundle size and fast performance, and it's simple as hell. And you can get most of the projects out there in Svelte as well, would say. It all depends on the complexity. And honestly, most projects nowadays, well, at least the ones I know, don't have that high of a complexity that would require React, so to say. Angular, it's as far as I know, is quite complex, data-driven web application. A lot of companies are actually switching from Angular to React. Even my close colleague, his work environment switched from Angular to React because Angular is not as flexible. Let's not even get started on functional programming languages like React is really good with TypeScript. I swallowed my pride and tried React because I think most, especially in JS realm, you always have new frameworks coming in, and once people stick to one framework or library, they never try other things. Like this React community, they're diehard React fans and they just say React is king without ever trying other options or frameworks, and other options are a lot easier. I really love Vue. It's simple, it's offer the best of both worlds of some JavaScript complexity but not too much compared to React. It's less boilerplate, and as well you have more jobs slowly coming in on Vue. And if you completely don't know any JS, you start from I don't know, a backend like I did in Python, and then wanted to learn frontend framework. Vue seemed like a more applicable approach. I didn't just learn a framework as most people or library because of money, and I know that's usually the case, but it's quite sad when I go into these JS meetups. There are beginners and they say start with React, and I can see the pain in their face because it's not quite welcoming compared to other options like Vue or Svelte. But people obviously take React because of the pay, but at the same time it's a little bit controversial because obviously you have bigger job board on React, but a lot less people, for example, know Vue.js in that sense. So and there are obviously less job openings for Vue.js, but at the same time less people know Vue.js, so it's like a trade-off. Everybody knows React, same as Python. And if you know other frameworks or language like I now use Go, then it may give you an advantage of learning something, knowing something that other people just went into the hype train and learned Python, or in this case React. If you're not in a hurry of getting a job, would say and you don't know JavaScript throughout, then would suggest Vue or Svelte. If you know JS quite well, then obviously go for React, but haven't really written in Angular. Quite short introduction to all three of them. I haven't actually worked a lot with Svelte. Sadly, it's a to-do list as usual, but afterwards I'm gonna as well like showcase a little bit of my Vue project that's already done and React that I'm building currently. As you can see here in the JSX React, it's here we have to define a function and we always have to have use state set as both as empty. Here you have added to. This is basically as JSX, and you have the return that you're gonna return on the UI. Input value new to do is actually the values that can get retrieved, and set is the one where you set the value. So in the input, when on change e, we set the to do in the current value, and the placeholder is as to do. Button on click, we actually run the add to do, and here set to do, we use a spread operator to add additional basically ID as date now as an example, and the text new to do that's been added here. And here on our list we use here we actually use proper JavaScript, the map clause where the to-dos, all the to-dos here are gonna map through, have to put the key as ID and to-do, and we get the text, as you can notice here. And button on click as well, having a delete based on to-do ID. That's the React side. It's okay-ish, but it can get quite complex and convoluted. I don't fancy huge boilerplate. In most cases, just the TypeScript is as an exception in my opinion. So let's go down to Vue part. So basically, as you can see, there's a huge difference. Here we have template separate, and here we have script. And here we have v directive. And so v directive is the new to do, and here is the to-do list. You can see the difference that here we actually have to have set state and set to-dos. But in Vue side, same as in Svelte, I'm gonna cover up shortly, is just returning the data object, right? So new to do input vModel just binds it. So placeholder we add. I'm not gonna run it because you can check multiple examples just shortly going through them. And then on click add to. On click add to, and here is the method add to. So this to do basically here we call this one to return the data object from to do push ID text this new to do, right, from this, and we have to set this new to do again to empty to not leave the input full. Here we loop through, making v for loop to do in to do's. Key, we always have to define the key to do. We get to do text, and here button click, we as well put an fn handler. Here is a to do function, like actually a method, yeah. We pass in the to do ID from here. This to do's, get all the to do's. This to do where I can pass in filter, and to do ID, then it's like no longer ID. So I think the difference is quite visible, and of course it depends on you personally. If you like just fancy the way it's written and like know JS quite well, then of course, as discussed multiple times. But for me personally, subjectively speaking, the templating format is like more readable and easy to go through. So now in Svelte, you can see they're quite similar. Only difference here, I put like, the script on top, but it doesn't play a huge role. Here we actually define as a let, new to do, to do's, add a do. Concept is partially as well like an, oh, I didn't save, as in React was defining const. Well, here it's const to do same concept. Here const added to, here delete. Input, we have to bind the value to new to do. The placeholder, same as in have the model is as well like a binding. On click, add to do. We bind at add, and in Svelte actually I have to put the braces, the pound like hashtag, and make like each to do as to do ID. And inside here, the each is like opening and closing each. And inside the list, we put like to do's text, button on click, delete to do, because here we get again the to do as ID and delete. I discuss more about a practical approach using my own projects. For example, I actually deployed an S3 bucket, and no, this is React, and this is a code. Basically, this is like the app, the one we always like start. Router view. This one is a home. V card. I used this Beautify, and as a UI library, have v text, v model, question length. Here you have options, as you can see. I can actually maybe put as an example. Yeah. Basically, 10 easy. As well, like had a YouTube video regarding this one, so you can follow it as well. And when I select all of these, validate, I go into quiz based on the option. If it's quiz multiple choice, I go to quiz multiple choice. Here I have data, and it's more concise, would say, in my opinion. The store as well as mutations. View X is quite simple when comparing to Redux. But of course I have as well like Piña, but then and React now use ZooStand. Currently it's as well like more simple, so it's not a like big hurdle. Here I have true or false. Let me go there, quiz true or false. We go through all of them. P card, basically choose, right? I think I can fastly choose something random. Yeah, okay, I got no points, right? And here basically as a view, pass in the result. In components, just like actually pass in the components. I know it's like quite a short explanation. Here I have all the methods. Get API question, get questions, get choices, answer class, next. This one is same concept, just different, partially. Here's a Beautify. All the routers, I just need like 3 routers: home, quiz, when doing the quiz, and result. Here's a store to store the state and results for the final, because I don't want to store it in database. And here is the final one. I'm gonna put my GitHub link below and you can find it. And now basically here comes React. Of course it's like a different project, so it's quite different. We actually have to see budget tracker, the actually use Node API to run Node. And here is the debug. So I'm not gonna go over the server side because that's not relevant in this case. Localhost, I use actually Bootstrap here. Okay, how can I showcase it? Maybe actually like that. Okay, I think it can work like. Okay. So basically, I'm not an expert or anything, but I use just JavaScript. In other project, I use TypeScript. They're like framework library. I separated them inside the components. I have authenticated. So auth. I know if it's completely automatic because I'm not huge pro with React, but for me it's always like a lot more boilerplate. Here I always have to have use state sign in to change the state, as you can see. Sign in or register, right? And based on that, I choose return either this component or this component. And when I go inside here, you can see it's inside the authenticate and register. Here are all the values I'm passing in. Here I have the config to make a request to my API backend. Node.js I already explained. If it's can upset it, I'm gonna save it as in that set state in the store. Luckily there's ZooStand. I would highly recommend. It's a lot more, if you have like just on React, it's a lot more simpler compared to Redux, even Redux Toolkit, and it's quite low on boilerplate. Yeah, here login register partially similar, but one additional field. As you can see, it's, for me it looks a little bit clunky. Where is the, yeah, export default login. As you can see here, have login, here register, and these all are passed in. So basically register. Here I have all the functions, asynchronous operation for the using Axios. Here like error if it's actually not logged in. As you can see, this is how it's gonna go when it's going to dashboard. Now it's got inside. Basically that's a component, and in the component I'm actually using a use effect to fetch the balance. I still have to figure out the use effect partially because it doesn't. Oh, and then here I get the basically the values. And with React I have issues with child to parent communication and changing. I'm not a huge fan of use effect compared to watcher. And basically afterwards, when it's still loading, it gives like some spinner. Here is like that, and you can see there's a lot of boilerplate. It's not a finished project. It's quite different, but there are like pros and cons on both ends. I hope you liked it and you learned something.